to the Best Damn Podcast. I am your host, John Keane. As always, I would like to thank you guys for joining me. Ask that you please add, follow, and check us out. Instagram, Facebook, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn, and wherever you're watching from, please make sure to hit that like, give us a thumbs up. Make sure to share this link. Help me to get it out there. That is the best way to support this channel, support my work, is by sharing the links. That way new people can find me. So if you're on Facebook, Instagram, any of those platforms, make sure to share it to your groups, your pages, and all that good stuff. Also, guys, consider donating, supporting. We are completely viewer-powered. PayPal, Cash App, Facebook Messenger Pay. All the links are in the description box down below. Tonight, we've got a pretty good one. This is going to be part three. Part 3 of the Return of Planet X. And it's like, we did the first couple of parts, and it really should have been one part, but it was, it had to be broken up in two because we were having technical difficulties at night, with the stream and all of that, which hopefully we don't tonight. But tonight we're going to look at it from a little bit different perspective. We're going to be looking at the prophecies of Daniel. We're going to be looking into Emanuel Velikovsky's Worlds in Collision. We're going to be looking at the Dark Days from the Kolbrin Bible. And, with the first parts, to me, I feel like we really delve deeply into the fact that, what this represents, right? And all throughout time, all throughout history, every text, every scripture, every spiritual book in the world mentions a time either before, in the beginning, where there was a destruction, whether it was a deluge or a great flood or whatever, and a time at the end where we are destroyed by fire, where there is a revealing, a great revealing, an apocalypse, a judgment, if you will, where the world is balanced out. And we know no matter what field of study you look into, no matter what school of thought you look into, we have so much data, so much information to support just that. We know now, in academia will probably dispute this, but we know now that there are many people coming out and saying that all of these stone structures across the world, from the pyramids and all of this, are way, way older than what we thought or what we anticipated. A lot of our spiritual beliefs and books and texts that we read today now, that our religions derive from, are from much older books, much older beliefs than what we originally thought. If we look at the soil and the geological data, not just the Younger Dryas, but there is many, many different periods in time where we've had massive destructions and mass extinction events, and some people even believe that we got down to the thousands in the human species on planet Earth and we were almost wiped out. And that these do seem to coincide with these celestial cycles. We know now scientifically that we have solar cycles, right? Where we go into maximums and minimums, and that the solar maximums have an effect on human consciousness and the way that our brain functions. They increase our intelligence, our spiritual awareness. They increase our lifespan, shorten our lifespan, as opposed to these solar cycles, and they affecting the way that our brains function. Because we are electrical beings at the end of the day. We know now as well that there has been many magnetic reversals on planet Earth, and it appears as if the continents themselves have shifted. Now, what does this due to? What causes this? What triggers this? Right? What triggers this? Many people that believe in a more spiritual point of view would say, well, everything manifests from the spiritual first, right? So when we go through these cycles and these ages, and if you think about it, it's like one thing hinging off of the other. We have this precession of the equinox, where our sun is sitting in the zodiac, right, in a particular zodiacal house in an age for approximately 2,600 years. And we're about to get into some of these books in just a second. Just bear with me here, right? And each age represents an element, represents an energy, and it's like a theme, right? It's an archetypical theme for humanity. on a collective level. Now, as these ages end, right, and as these ages end, it seems to happen also that our sun goes through has particular effects on it. Now, is it being affected by the place in space that it is in, right? The energy that it's channeling, if you will, by being in a specific part of the sky, being a specific part of the zodiac? Or is it, something like we see, like science believes, where it's like every 11 years, every 50 years, every 100 and 200 years? Does space even know time? Considering time as a human construct, we seem to try to pin everything on the axis of time, but if you really look at the nature of reality, it seems to hinge more on the axis of energy, right? Of energy. So as we sail through space, and just bear with me, I know not everybody believes in space and all of that, and as our star shifts through this, this zodiac here and channels different energies in, and it itself is going through different cycles and different energies, it then has this effect on the Earth and the Earth's magnetic field, right? Which is its aura. The Earth's collective aura is its magnetic field, right? And that would be our collective aura, our collective magnetic field. And as this happens, the radiation and things have a scientifically proven effect, not just on genetics, right, and known to mutate DNA from radiation, but mutate everything on planet Earth. So we see these shifts, the sun having these shifts in consciousness as it shifts through different parts of space, having a shift within humanity. We shift in consciousness, going to higher and lower places, right? And a lot of these stories where we hear about the fallen angels or, different falls are usually according to falls in consciousness, in my opinion. Well, as this happens, it then brings instability within the physical environment because, as above, so below, it's manifesting from one place to another, to another, to another. It's the micro to the macro, right? Because of the connectedness of everything. And then what you see is destruction happen at the end of these cycles. Right? Massive volcanic eruptions and earthquakes and seismic events, because you're dealing with energy here. So it's not just energy internally within all of us or consciously, right, going on, or just up in the heavens and the shifting of the stars and all of these signs that we see. But it's also happening internally inside of Gaia, inside of Mother Earth, right? Which then causes these land masses to shift and move, which causes massive die-offs, which causes mutations in all of the other plants and animals. Remember, our DNA holds every plant, every animal, and every molecule on the face of the earth. And we hear these stories about this dark star, right, or this dark lord. And how, or Nibiru, right? And how this thing is a marker in time that actually triggers these events. It actually signifies the coming of this change, this great change, and that it's only known to the wise. It's only known to the wise. Like, people like you and me, the masses, I guess we don't get privy to this information, but if you look at a lot of the studies of, space agencies and governments and shit like that, if you really truly think about it, a lot of them appear to be looking for something like that, right? When we're sending all these probes and shit into space. And we're going to go ahead and assume in this video, because I just don't want to answer all the questions, we're going to go ahead and assume that they're telling the truth and that they actually do send probes into space and that there actually is a space and all of that, because just for the sake of conversation, and I know that a lot of people believe differently. They believe that, and I tend to be one of them. I don't know whether or not we ever launch a rocket or anything and it ever leaves outside of this atmosphere. I don't believe it does. Right? I don't believe it does, but it doesn't mean that we're still not looking for something with our telescopes and all of that, and not trying to find something outside of the earth, some type of indicator, some type of signal to show us that we are in a shift, to show us that that time has come once again. And we see the signs, right? We see the signs and the wonders, and it's like this is one of the telltale signs every time that this happens and takes place, is we'll see the stars and signs in the heavens and the stars and the sky kind of show us that we're getting ready to enter into that time. We see special things happening, and speaking of special things happening, we have an eclipse coming up, don't we? This special eclipse, right? Marking 7-year period, right? 7-year period between these two. And as we talked about in the first video, y'all will have to forgive me. I am on a 10-minute delay, I believe, or 10-second delay on the stream. So if you're in the chat or whatever, it will take me 10 seconds to see, your comment or whatever. So and please let me know if you guys can hear me and see me and everything's good in the chat for me. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. So we have this eclipse coming, this great American eclipse. We talked about in the first part how all of this was kind of, prefaced by the great sign in heaven, this Revelations 12 prophecy that took place September 23rd, 2017. Well, this great sign in heaven, right, actually took place just a few days or a month after the first great American eclipse. The first great American eclipse took place on August 21st, 2017, and here we are 7 years later, and we know that 7 is a number of judgment, right? The 7 seals, the 7 trumpets. 7 is a number of God, or many believe to be a number of God. I know many numerologists that would actually disagree, but that's neither here nor there. And we have 7 being a very prominent number in the matrix, in the system. And remember, matrix means a womb, right? We are in a womb of consciousness, right? And we'll get into that a little bit later. But 7 days of the week, the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 chakras, so on and so forth, right? We've discussed a lot of this on this channel. The 7 years of famine, the 7 years of plenty, judgment coming over Babylon, darkness at midday, the story of Jonah we talked about in the first video as well, right? All of these different things. How we have some of the cities that are falling under the darkness. I believe it's 8 of them that are Nineveh, right? Just like the prophecy of Jonah. And matter of fact, the city that's got 100% coverage by this eclipse is called Eagle Pass, right? And we know that there was just a Pluto return, which was very symbolic of kind of like the end of the United States of America. Last year we had our Pluto return here in the U.S. last year. All of this following after this great conjunction that took place, and we also showed in the first videos with the old paintings and newspaper clippings and all of that from former great conjunctions, the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. And I showed you how Saturn and Jupiter in that great conjunction actually make the infamous picture of Nibiru with the wings, because it's actually just Jupiter usurping Saturn, Saturn being the god of this world, Satan, right? The Saturn moon matrix, the ringed planet, and in front of that, usurping the striped planet, Jesus, right? Zeus, Thor, Jesus who bore our stripes, the striped planet. He also has the red eye, another all-seeing eye. Like Saturn has one on the South Pole and the hexagon on the North Pole, usurps Saturn and comes in front of it. And for a time, it looks like, Jupiter has wings. And in ancient Babylon, they called Jupiter Nibiru. And we actually even showed in the Enuma Elish as well that is true, right? We showed that. All of this in the first part. So this great conjunction, every time it appears to happen as well, which it happened December 21st on the solstice 2020, okay? All of these things taking place like bam, 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 one after another, one after another, one after another. And within that 7-year period, we know that we had very symbolic moments happening as well, like the 1,260 days, right? The time, and half a time, as mentioned in the Bible. And then we had the asteroid Apophis, which is the dragon, right? That first sign, March 21st, 2021. And then that 42 months after, we had the mark of the beast roll out, which was the jab, right? C19 or Devach 91, if we look at the Hebraic version of that, right? And how the Apogee delivery system, the dual delivery system, had the RFID chip, and all of this was produced by DARPA and the military-industrial complex, and this happened all across the world, right? This mark that was actually the destruction of the third temple, right? 1, 2, 3, third temple. And everybody heard all of the comparisons of Trump to Cyrus, right? Being minted on a gold coin. Trump had a gold coin, right? The outsider who became the king of Babylon, right? And guess what happened? In his 4th year, Babylon fell, didn't it? It did. We had 30,000 National Guard troops occupying our capital during the transition of power. And during that transition of power, which was televised, nobody was actually allowed to see it with their own eyes. When they shot off the cannons for salute, instead of like the 7 times or whatever that they do, they only shot it off 3, which signifies that we were under duress from a foreign entity. Right? So, one thing after another, after another, after another. And we remember Israel's 70 years and all that to go along with the prophecy of Daniel and shit that was happening at the same time. All these things just lining up. It's like it's biblical. And it's on a level that I don't know if many people can even wrap their head around. It's hard for me to wrap my head around it. And it's like I've studied this stuff for so long. We've done so much together on all of this. It's like, yeah, I've seen all the pieces kind of come together on this chessboard here. But at the same time, it's like, do we truly know the impact of what we witnessed and what we are about to see? Do we? Because I don't think so. We know that the age of Pisces is ending. And we're going into the age of Aquarius. And this year is like the true end of that because of the Pluto and Capricorn and all that shit, right? So it's actually the true shift into Aquarius happening, coinciding with this 7-year shit, right? And let's not even forget some of the smaller things too, Trump and Pence and trumpets and all of that from 2016 on when all this shit was popping off and beginning. And all of this was like the precursor to this one world system, right? This new world order, if you will. Rolling out those jabs. And remember how the World Health Organization, and we talked about, the 4 horsemen, conquering and to conquer, and, wearing the Stephanos, meaning to wreathe and twine, and, the UN and the 33, like all of it, like it's mind-blowing when you truly think about it. And like here we are today, all trying to wrap our heads around this thing, like really wondering, like, what does this mean for all of us? Will we see a physical manifestation of this in the heavens? Will we see a physical planet? If we really think about it, we haven't seen a lot of indicators that we will. Yes, there's many people. Let me kind of start pulling some stuff up here. There are many people that believe they have seen things in the sky. Many people that have even made trajectories like we see here, the estimated orbital path of, Planet X. And we've seen, different people speculate on what that means, and when we will be in alignment with that and when that would actually take place. We've seen the moon turn red. We've seen images of giant fucking faces in the sky. We've seen some of the craziest shit you could even imagine. And it says, there will be signs in the stars. We've seen that. Will we see a physical manifestation? Will there be a physical destruction? Now I'm going to look here. This is where we're going to go first. To Worlds in Collision. And we are going to talk about and kind of go through, we're going to go through quite a few different things. And we're going to show like some of the things in the past from a physical perspective, right? What they actually physically went through. And we're going to look at the spiritual things that go along with that as well. We're going to look at the dark days. We're going to look at the days after this happens, and I really do think that people should take the time, if you have not, to watch the first couple of parts on this playlist. This playlist won't be public forever. I'm only going to leave it up, probably leave this one up for a day or so. And then the whole playlist is going unlisted to the patrons and all that. Sirius controls the earth. Well, I mean, we'll pull up some. I've got serious stuff too. We're gonna look at the Hopi prophecy and all of that. It's like there's so many different things, guys, and that's kind of what it all boils down to. It's like there's so much information out there. There's so many prophecies out there. There's so many signs and evidence that something is shifting. That something is changing. It's almost impossible to fucking ignore. I myself have my own thoughts, opinions, and beliefs about this, but I don't want to just bombard you with what I believe the whole time. I want to show you what information I've seen to come to my own beliefs and conclusions, and allow you to come to your own conclusions from that as well. Because it's like, I believe we are shifting in consciousness. I believe that we are evolving spiritually, and that we are shifting into a new age, and this age of air, right? This Aquarian age is going to change the way, not just that we think and act, it's going to change the nature of our being. Just like it's changed every fucking time before. And we will look at some of these, older destructions, and you will see it's not just a physical thing. Right? Even in the Enki's World Order, right? The Lost Book of Enki. They talk about this deluge coming, and, how, the gods were stressed about this, right? They were stressed. They went up in their ships and shit and hid, meaning, that part of us, our higher selves was like detached from us, allowing the physical part of us to kind of go through shit. So, alright. Before the present era, it was taught that in a period of 2,484 years, the earth undergoes two destructions. Let me pull this up too while I'm at it. I'm just going to go ahead and try to get it all while we're doing this. Okay. All right. When we look at the precession of the equinoxes, it's the motion of the equinoxes along the ecliptic, the plane of the Earth's orbit, caused by the cyclic precession of the Earth's axis of rotation. In compiling his famous star catalog, completed in 129 BC, the Greek astronomer Hipparchus noticed that the positions of the stars were shifted in a systematic way from earlier Babylonian Chaldean measures. This indicated that it was not the stars that were moving, but rather the observing platform, Earth. Such a motion is called the precession and consists of a cyclic wobbling in the orientation of Earth's axis of rotation with a period of 25,772 years, so 26,000 year cycles. The precession was the third discovered motion of Earth. After the far more obvious daily rotation and annual revolution. Precession is caused by the gravitational influence of the sun and the moon acting on Earth's equatorial bulge. To a much lesser extent, the planets exert influence as well. The projection onto the sky of Earth's axis of rotation results in two notable points at opposite directions, the north and south celestial poles. Because of precession, these points trace out circles in the sky. Today, the North Celestial Pole points within just 1 degree of Polaris, and it will point closest to Polaris at about 2100 CE. In 12,000 years, the North Celestial Pole will point about 5 degrees from Vega. Presently, the South Celestial Pole does not point in the vicinity of any bright star. Also, moving with this wobble is a projection on the sky of Earth's equator. The projection, a great circle, is called the celestial equator. The celestial equator intersects another useful great circle, the ecliptic. As the Earth orbits the Sun, the constantly changing direction from which the Sun is viewed causes it to trace out the ecliptic. The celestial equator is inclined at 23.43 degrees angles, and the ecliptic is so-called obliquity of the ecliptic. The celestial equator and the ecliptic intersect at 2 points called the equinoxes, the vernal and autumnal. And during the course of the year, as the Earth orbits the Sun, the latter is seen crossing the equator twice. In March, moving from the southern hemisphere into the northern hemisphere, and in September, moving in the opposite direction. So you can kind of see here, right? We have this, we are basically, because of our rotation, the Sun is in different places throughout the zodiac at different times. And like I was saying in the beginning, because of that, and I believe that the Sun is, in essence, it's like a portal. It's like a portal. It's like if you see the blackness of space and you see these stars, right? It's like this giant lattice where, like a black hole would be the opposite side of a sun, in my opinion. Right? So on the other side is probably dark, pulling stuff in, and we're seeing like the brightness and shit being blown out in our direction. It is pure awareness, pure spirit, pure whatever, right? That's what it gives life. Like, we are being projected by this sun, and wherever this sun is within the zodiacal, point of the sky, that is the energy that it's harnessing. Each part of the zodiac represents different elements, right? Different elements, and some of them are mutable and things like that. Some are fixed. All of the 4 elements: fire, water, earth, and these different elements not only are basically used as like the base of that particular period that we're in. So we're in like a fire, we're in like a fire part of the zodiac. Like, you notice, like, because fire in magic and in mysticism is more akin to like the spiritual, that's where you hear like the stuff of the burning bush and shit, right? Like this age of Aries, like the burning bush. They were more magical. They were more aware. They were able to do more things, see more things. And then, you see the deluge, the flood. It's about water. We go into Pisces, and Christ, which is the anointing, Christos, right, walking on water. So it's like that element of water, which makes us far more dense. It's also, notice how emotional we are in this age. We go to war and all that. And it's also, each one of these things has an archetypical expression as well. So like, Jupiter and water, like it represents religion and, things like that. So you see that as the prominent theme. Well, now we're shifting into an air age, right? So it's going to be more about the mental. Right? It's going to be more about the mental. It's going to be more about the collective as opposed to the individual. This is also because of the energy that is being projected to us through the sun. It's going to be about technology too. That's why you see like the rise in artificial intelligence. You see the restructuring of our social system also. You're going to see a lot of these different changes, and I believe this happens every single time. Every single time. You know, we shift into these different elements, and that's why you hear these stories about the gods, and I mentioned this in the first part as well. You know, you'll hear them, they'll be named different things, like the Anunnaki and the Ajiji. The Elohim and the Nephilim, right? These like different levels, because I believe they are from different ages, right? So, you know, these giants and stuff were like fire beings. They were from a fire age. You know, before that it was an earth age, you know, and those were like what you would call primordials, right? Because they were like the formation of the elements of the earth. And then now you see us in this water age where we're developing emotion, because to me, what we're experiencing here is we are God experiencing itself, pure awareness and consciousness experiencing itself. And what did somebody say to me the other day? They said that we made our creation so good, right, that we forgot we made it, right? Like our creation is so good that we forgot we made it, basically. You know, like it's so, like we've done it so well, like in creating the earth and in creating these physical bodies and, you know, creating the illusion of separation down here. Like we forgot we did it. Like that's how good we did it, you know. And in that water age, you know, we've seen this drop in consciousness, this fall, and that's why you hear all these tales of like Lucifer and fallen angels and so on and so forth, right? And how mankind was punished, right? They were punished basically through this great flood, and the giants were all wiped out. Well, giants would represent like a higher consciousness too. Notice these giants, they were able to do far greater things. These were the men of old, the heroes of renown, and, in all of the ancient books. So, let's go over here. Now we are entering into the air age, so we're going to have a whole different view on what we look like, what we are. Now, the present era taught us in the period of 2,484 years that the earth undergoes two destructions of combustion and deluge. The Stoics generally believed in a periodic conflagrations by which the world was consumed to be reshaped anew. So each one of these, right? It's like the reshaping. It's this destruction that happens on a cyclical scale, and then it's to make something new, right? This is due to the forces of every active fire which exists in things, and in the course of long cycles of time resolves everything into itself, and out of it is constructed a reborn world. Let me say that again. This is due to the forces of ever active fire which exist in things, and in the course of long cycles of time resolves everything into itself, and out of it is constructed a reborn world. So Philo represented the notion of the Stoics that our world is refashioned in periodic conflagrations. In one such catastrophe, the world will meet its ultimate destruction, colliding with another world. It will fall apart into atoms, out of which, in a long process, a new earth will be created somewhere in the universe. Democritus and Epicurus explained Philo. Postulate many worlds, the origin of which they ascribe to the mutual impacts of interlacing of atoms and their destruction to the counterblows and collisions by bodies so formed. As this earth goes to its ultimate destruction, it passes through recurring cosmic catastrophes and is reformed with all that lives on it. So this is what I was talking about earlier, right? These different catastrophes, these different cycles. Yes, it's happening according to the zodiac. Yes, it's happening according to the solar cycles. Yes, all of these things are creating these different effects that we know that are scientifically explained, but what is actually going on is a shift in consciousness. It is us evolving consciously. It's us because we are the earth, we are the consciousness, we are all of it. So each time one of these destructions happen, it is to mutate, change, and evolve everything that's here on the earth and create a new, right? So Hesiod, one of the earliest Greek authors, wrote about 4 ages and 4 generations, and notice there are 4 elements, of men that were destroyed by the wrath of the planetary gods. The 3rd age was the age of bronze, when it was destroyed by Zeus, which is Jupiter, right? That would be your Nibiru, by the way. A new generation repeopled the earth, and using bronze for arms and tools, they began to use iron too. And hopefully I'm getting it right. I believe iron, let's see the planetary metals here. I don't want to say it wrong. There we go. I think, yes, this one's it right here. That was cool. Saturn is lead. One moment, guys. And make sure you're hitting that thumbs up for me if you're in the chat. Like I said, that's on YouTube. And commenting if you're on Facebook. And if you're watching on Twitter right now, or X, whatever the fuck it's called, make sure to retweet and all that good stuff. I appreciate everybody who does that for me too, guys. Thank you so much. Alright, here we go. So, and if you're, I'm trying to go back and forth here, that way we can, I have all my information here. Alright, so you can see the corresponding metals here, right? Saturn is Sahasrara, or chakra, or the crown chakra. The organ is the spleen, right? So each one of them also represents an organ, and then the metal is lead. Jupiter, the Ajna chakra, or third eye, right, is the organ, is the liver, and the metal is tin. Mars is Vishuddha, and that's the throat, the gallbladder, and the metal is iron. So this is Mars that we are talking about. And we'll just finish it. Sun is the Anahata chakra, or the heart. The organ's the heart, and the metal is gold. Venus is the Manipura, and the solar plexus, the kidney, and copper. And then Mercury is the Vadhisthana, which is the sacral plexus, and the organ is the lungs, and the metal is mercury. And then the moon is the Muladhara, or the root, and it's your genitals and your brain, and the metal is silver. So there you go. Alright, so Hesiod, one of the earliest Greek authors, wrote about 4 ages and 4 generations. Like I said, 4 elements of men that were destroyed by the wrath of the planetary gods. The 3rd age was the age of bronze, when it was destroyed by Zeus, which is Jupiter, right? Thor, Jesus, Nibiru, right? The new generation repeopled the earth, and using bronze for arms and tools, they began to use iron too, which is Mars, right? And the heroes of the Trojan War were of this 4th generation. Then a new destruction was decreed. And after that, yet another generation, the 5th, of men who are upon the bounteous earth, the generation of iron. And another work of his, Hesiod described the end of one of the ages. The life-giving earth crashed around and burning. All the land seethed, and the ocean streams. It seemed even as if earth and wide heaven above came together. For such a mighty crash would have arisen if earth were being hurled to ruin, and from heaven on high were hurling her down. Analogous traditions of 4 expired ages persist on the shores of Philo. The Bengal Sea and highland of Tibet, the present age, is the 5th. The sacred Hindu book of the Bhagavata Purana tells 4 ages and of Pralaya. Sorry guys, I cannot say this. It's probably hard to listen to. Pralayas or cataclysms in various epochs mankind was nearly destroyed. The 5th age is that of the present. Now, and think about too the Hopi prophecy, right, and the emergence of the 5th world. So this is not just one group of people. This is every different culture and civilization across planet Earth are believing in these same cycles, right? So we see the 5th age is out of the present. The world ages are called kalpas or yugas. Each world age met its destruction in catastrophes of conflagration, flood, and hurricane. Yajur Vedam and Bhagavatam, sacred Hindu books, keeping to the scheme of 4 expired ages, differ only in the number of years ascribed to each. In the chapter World Cycles of Visuddhimagga, it is said that there are 3 destructions: the destruction by water, the destruction by fire, and the destruction by wind, but that there are 7 ages. So, and think about that too, we have these different destructions, all that correlate to the elements, and then these different ages that correlate to probably the planets, right? Each of which is separated from the previous one by a world catastrophe. Reference to ages and catastrophes is found in Zend-Avesta, the sacred scriptures of Mazdaism, the ancient religion of the Persians. Bahman Yast, one of the books of Avesta, counts 7 world ages or millennia. Zoroaster, the prophet of Mazdaism, speaks of the signs and wonders and perplexity which are manifested in the world at each of the millennium. And think about that too, right? These are the signs and wonders and perplexity which are manifested in the world at the end of each of the millennium. The signs, the wonders that are manifested at the end of the age, right? And we're having those now, right? We've been having those. These signs and wonders that are being manifested at the end of these ages. So the Chinese call the perished ages keys. And think about that with the Enki, right? Enki, and then the Egyptians with the Ka and Ba, so the Ka and Ki, right? Just saying. Chinese called the perished ages keys, and number 10 keys from the beginning of the world until Confucius. In the ancient Chinese encyclopedia, Xing Li Tao Sun Chao, the general convulsions of Na, the Hindu pantheon, nature are discussed. Because of the periodicity of these convulsions, the span of time between 2 catastrophes is regarded as a great year. As during a year, so during a world age, the cosmic mechanism winds itself up, and in a general convulsion of nature, the sea is carried out of its bed, mountains spring out of the ground, and rivers change their course. Human beings and everything are ruined, and the ancient traces effaced. An old tradition, and a very persistent one, of world ages that went down in cosmic catastrophes was found in the Americas among the Incas, the Aztecs, and the Mayas. A major part of the stone inscriptions found in Yucatan refer to world catastrophes. The most ancient of these fragments, or katuns, or calendar stones of Yucatan, they refer in general to great catastrophes which at intervals and repeatedly convulsed the American continent, and of which all nations of this continent have preserved a more or less distinct memory. The codices of Mexico and Indian authors who composed the annals of their past give a prominent place to the tradition of world catastrophes that decimated humankind and changed the face of the earth. In the chronicles of the Mexican kingdom, it is said, "The ancients knew that before the present sky and earth were formed, man was already created, and life had manifested itself 4 times. A tradition of successive creations and catastrophes is found in the Pacific, on Hawaii, and on the islands of Polynesia. There were 9 ages, and in each age a different sky was above the earth. Icelanders too believe that 9 worlds went down in a succession of ages, a tradition that is sustained or contained in the Edda. And think about that too, right, with the the Norse mythologies, right? The Norse mythos, which he's talking about the Edda as well, right? So, and how 10 being like the number of God, right? So it's like these 9 dimensional levels of consciousness to get us up to that 10th, right? Each one resulting in destruction because we're shifting, right, in consciousness. So it does appear as if that we're on some type of journey, at least to like some end point, whether that's to bring ourselves back to the divine nature of God, right? Back to our Creator, or back to the wholeness of what we were before all of this began. Now, the rabbinical conception of ages crystallized in the post-exilic period. Already before the birth of our earth, worlds had been shaped and brought into existence, only to be destroyed in time. He made several worlds before ours, but he destroyed them all. The earth too was not created at the beginning to satisfy the divine plan. It underwent reshaping. 6 consecutive remoldings. New conditions were created after each of the catastrophes. On the 4th earth lived the generation of the Tower of Babel. We belong to the 7th age. 7, there's that 7 again, right? Each of the ages of earth has a name. 7 heavens were created and 7 earths were created. The most removed, the 7th Eretz, the 6th Adama, the 5th Arka, the 4th Haraba, the 3rd Yabasha, the 2nd Tibel, and our own land called Heled. Heled, how about that? Ain't that interesting? So here's the names one more time, just in case you missed that. 7 heavens were created and 7 earths, the most removed. The 7th was Eretz, or Eretz. The 6th, Adama, or Adam. The 5th, Arka, or Ark, right? The 4th, Haraba. The 3rd, Yabasha. The 2nd, Tevel. And our own called Heled, or Heled. Held. It looks like hell too. Hell, right? Wow. Ours is called hell, basically, right? And like the others, it is separated from the foregoing by the abyss, chaos, and water, very much like hell. 20 great catastrophes changed the face of the earth. Some perished by deluge. Others were consumed by conflagration, wrote the Jewish philosopher Philo. According to the rabbinical authority of Rashi, ancient tradition knows of periodic collapses of the firmament, one of which occurred in the days of the deluge and which repeated themselves at intervals of 1,656 years. The duration of the world ages varies in Armenian and Arabian traditions. The sun ages. An oft-repeated occurrence in the traditions of the world ages is the advent of a new sun in the sky at the beginning of every age. And I love this part, and I love this theory too on the sun thing. We've talked about this before. This is why I love catastrophism. Yeah, I'm a fucking nerd, dude. Really, I am. But I love catastrophism. I love destruction. Because it talks about how, like, basically each of these planets, and you're going to hear it, but each of these planets, like, in our sky, like, new planets are created by the, the crashing into Earth. So it's like the old star basically fucks us up, and from the pieces a new planet is made. You know what I mean? It's like a new one of the archons, the governors, the watchers, the rulers. So from all, the 7 main planets, 7 destructions in the 7th world, there'll be another one, right? And if you think about it, Pluto being discovered, and Neptune and Uranus. Are these like future destructions that are yet to take place? Is like Pluto going to be the next planet? A lot of people associate Pluto with Virgo as well, right? And then you hear like the story of Christ being born from a virgin birth, and then the great sign in heaven, right, having to do with the constellation of Leo and Virgo, right, in alignment, and Jupiter coming through Virgo to be born, the king planet. So I'm just saying, like, this kind of really does get my gears turning, my wheels spinning, and thinking about how all of this works. The celestial clock, right? And it's fucking fascinating when you truly, truly think about it. And I mean fascinating that we have this celestial clock that's running around us all the time. All the time, right? It never misses a beat. It never skips a step. And it's moving at such dynamic speeds, but at the same time, we can't even tell because it looks like it's sitting still, right? And our lives are such a blip. Right? It's such a blip. We witnessed just a second on that clock. Just a minute on that clock. Not even a minute. On that celestial clock. But we've lived so many fucking lives that we've actually seen the whole clock. We've been there every second that's ticked off of it. Right? We're the ones who built the goddamn clock. Like, it's just wild to think about. And it's wild to think about. To tell me that there's not a God. Tell me that there's not a God and something so intelligent, so intentional, that built in the laws of reality, the laws of creation. And people say, well, they did on that open panel I did the last time, didn't they? He said, that's your truth. Yeah, okay, well, if we're speculating and having fucking opinions about things, that is my truth, right? And you have your truth, and I have mine, and all that goody shit, right? But the truth actually is that there is an underlying truth, right? There is a basis, a base for how, and laws for how everything is made, right? That's how we have a duality. That's not just my truth, that is the truth. We live in a duality. There is as above, so below, right? Like these, and the Hermetic principles are not just my truth. These are the laws of creation, right? The laws of creation. This is how creation works. The laws of attraction and polarity and all of these things. These aren't speculative. People always say it's speculative because they're full of shit and they don't know what they're talking about, right? So they want to act like we can speculate on these things and like it could be right or it couldn't be. No, this is tested. This is proven out by quantum physics and all of this shit. It's observable evidence. It's written in 1 billion books since the beginning of time. Every fucking master that lived on the earth has wrote about this as well to confirm this, and we know it. We can observe it with our eyes. We can see it and witness it in real time now. And not only do we go according to these laws, the planets and shit as well also follow these laws. So someone had to make the laws, is my point. Someone had to put them in place and put the formula of how all of this works. How everything is so connected and hinges one off of the other, one off of the other, one off of the other. The micro and the macro. How everything is a reflective, right? A mirrored image, right? From the molecules in your body to the organs in your body, to your body itself, to you and the collective of people, to the collective of people, to a nation, to the nation, to the continent, to the continent, to the globe, to the solar system, and the planets, to the galaxy, to the universe, right? It is this reflection, one after another, of the same thing being repeated, right? All following the same laws, the same dynamic system, and it's intelligent, and it's aware. Which means you cannot create something, and this is how we know there's a God too. Because something that is intelligent, something that is aware can't come out of something that is not. Right? If I have a consciousness and I have awareness and I have intelligence, I can't come from something that is not. I can't be born of a fucking monkey, right? If I can think and write equations down. You know, I had to come from something with the ability to think and write equations down. You know? And it's like we're giving, you know, we're told all this shit in school, and like it's just lies, you know, to try to make us think, you know. And I'm not saying there isn't forms of evolution. There absolutely is. There's cosmic evolutions, but I believe these evolutions happen way faster than we could ever imagine. They're fucking simultaneously explosive, happening at one time. When these ages end, like and to us it may seem like a long time, but these are just blips on the map, right? Like right now, the time that we're in, we're already being changed. We're already going through the change. We're seeing the signs and the wonders in the heavens. We're seeing the shift in consciousness. We're seeing the increase in knowledge. This is that mutation taking place right now. And when the destruction occurs and we arise, we'll be brand new. It'll be like it happened over fucking night, all at once. And everything else on Earth is changing along with us. Its genetics and DNA is mutating at the same time as ours because of the solar radiation and because of the magnetic field weakening and the the polarity of the planet reversing, right? And these polarity shifts on the planet are showing you these are shifts in consciousness going up and down and things like that. So it's all this connectedness showing that someone is behind the scenes, you know, or some ultimate consciousness, some ultimate mind, some ultimate omnipresent, omnipotent, you know, creator. Which is it us, it could be. But how do we even understand that? How do we even wrap our heads around that? Everything that we know, everything that exists comes from within that. We have no word, no idea, no symbol, no nothing to explain it, to understand it, to rightly divide it, to observe it. The only way we can observe it is through life. We're observing it right now. This is the only way that God is able to be observed by us living and breathing. An oft-repeated occurrence in the traditions of the world ages is the advent of a new sun in the sky at the beginning of every age. Now the word sun is substituted for the word age in the cosmogonical traditions of many peoples all over the world. The Mayas counted their ages by the names of their consecutive suns. These were called water sun, earthquake sun, hurricane sun, fire sun. These suns mark the epochs to which attributed the various catastrophes the world has suffered. The annals of King Tetzcoco describe the world ages by the names of suns. The water sun, or sun of waters, was the first age, terminated by a deluge in which almost all creatures perished. The earthquake sun, or age, perished in a terrific earthquake when the earth broke in many places and mountains fell. The world age of the hurricane sun came to its destruction in a cosmic hurricane. The fire sun was the world age that went down in a rain of fire. The nations of Cuba, or Mexico, believing according to their hieroglyphic paintings that previous to the sun, which now enlightens them, 4 had already been successively extinguished. These 4 suns are as many ages in which our species has been annihilated by inundations, by earthquakes, by a general conflagration, and by the effect of destroying tempest. Every one of the 4 elements participated in each of the catastrophes. Deluge, hurricane, earthquake, and fire gave their names to the catastrophes because of the predominance of one of them in the upheavals. The symbols of the successive suns are painted on the pre-Columbian literary documents of Mexico. Cinco soles que son edades, or 5 suns that are epochs, wrote Gamarra in his description of the conquest of Mexico. An analogy to this sentence of Gemara may be found in Lucius Ampelius. Okay. Here we go. Sorry, guys. World cycles. There are 3 destructions: the destruction by water, the destruction by fire, the destruction by wind. After the catastrophe of the deluge, when now a long period has elapsed from the cessation of the rains, a second sun appeared. A second sun appeared. Think about that. A second fucking sun appeared. And we're seeing this in the sky today. Right? We're seeing this today. Literally. Second suns appearing in the sky. I should actually had some of the shit queued up, but you can go watch some of my older videos where we literally show images, videos, and all this where people are seeing these fucking anomalies in the sky, and it's like, 2, 3 goddamn suns. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Well, according to this has happened before. When the second sun appears, and this is interesting, when the second sun appears, there is no distinction of day and night, but an incessant heat beats upon the world. When the 5th sun appeared, the ocean gradually dried up. When the 6th sun appeared, the whole world became filled with smoke. And after the lapse of another long period, a 7th sun appears, and the whole world breaks into flames. The Buddhist book refers to a more ancient discourse on the 7 suns. The Brahmins called the epochs between 2 destructions the great days. The Sibylline books recite the ages in which the world underwent destruction and regeneration. The Sibyl told as follows: the 9 suns are 9 ages. Now is the 7th. The Sibyl prophesied 2 ages yet to come, that of the 8th and of the 9th. The Aborigines of British and North Borneo even today declare that the sky was originally low, and that the 6 suns perished, and at the present the world is illuminated by the 7th sun. 7 solar ages are referred to in Mayan manuscripts, in Buddhist sacred books, and in the books of Sibyl. In all quoted sources, the suns are explained by the sources themselves as signifying consecutive epochs, each went down in a great general destruction. Did the reason for the substitution of the word sun for epoch by the peoples of both hemispheres lie in the changed appearance of the luminary and its changed path across the sky in each world age? Now think about that. Think about that. Imagine if we, as we move into the age of Aquarius, we now get a new sun. Right? Imagine walking outside and seeing a different fucking sun in the sky and it having a different, the days and the nights changing. The trajectory, seeing the way that it moves across the sky, or eclipses and all the celestial events changing. Right? How fucking crazy would that be? And I'm trying to think of, I think it was Dave Dobbs. He's one of them that have kind of like drawn this this chart of Jupiter kind of having its own, elongated orbit, right? And then this elongated orbit of Jupiter, and this is kind of like the explanation of Venus and all kinds of shit, saying that Venus was once an orbiting moon of Jupiter, and then it was thrown out of its orbit, or because of it impacting something else. It was taken out of its orbit, and that's why it looks like a comet the way that it does. And that the Earth was once a satellite of Jupiter as well, right? That we once orbited, and you hear many different books and stuff and texts and beliefs, right? To where we once were, the Jewish people once worshipped Jupiter, then they went to Saturn, and you know what I mean? Why was that? Right? Why was that? Remember the tale of, Jupiter, right? Jupiter, old man Piter, right? In captivity in Egypt, right, they would see the moon, right, or the Jupiter go across the tops of the pyramids, and they would say that was old man Piter climbing the hill or whatever, right? Like that's where the mythology and shit came from, and it was Jupiter, right? Because of the Jewish people that believed that, and they changed their god from Jupiter to Saturn, right? Did they change their god from Jupiter to Saturn because of the conjunction? Because of the age? Were they just so stupid that they just didn't know who to believe and what God was what, right? Or did they know that we had actually entered a different time or in a different age? And it's like, okay, well, now Jupiter is done, usurping Saturn, and we're going into this age of darkness, this deluge, this Saturn age, where Saturn is the god of this world. So now let's worship Saturn instead, because Saturn has rulership over this solar system in which we're in, right? Was it them being idiots or them being genius, right? We oftentimes, when we think about the ancients, and we look back on ancient history, and we look back at the ancient mythos, we always think, well, these people were just so stupid, right? They couldn't possibly have known what was going on. But I think you couldn't be further from the truth. And before we move here forward, right, I just want to kind of give you a little bit of clip here, a little taste of what actually happens during these cataclysms. Right? What actually happens during these cataclysms? This is the Adam and Eve story from the CIA, right? And this is describing the destruction at one of these cyclic periods. Okay? And you see here, the next cataclysm. Like Noah's 6,500 years ago, like Adam and Eve's 11,500 years ago, this too will come to pass. And remember, it was saying in Worlds in Collision that there were two destructions between destructions, right? So it's like we're getting fucked up all the time here, okay? So these two destructions between destructions. With a rumble so low as to be inaudible, growing, throbbing, then fuming into a thundering roar, the earthquake starts. Only it's not like any earthquake in recorded history. In California, the mountains shake like ferns in a breeze, and the mighty Pacific rears back and piles up into a mountain of water more than 2 miles high, then starts its race eastward. With the force of 1,000 armies, the wind attacks, ripping, shredding everything in its supersonic bombardment. The unbelievable mountain of Pacific seawater follows the wind eastward, burying Los Angeles and San Francisco as if they were but grains of sand. Nothing but nothing stops the relentless, overwhelming onslaught of wind and ocean. Across the continent, the 1,000-mile-per-hour winds wreak its unholy vengeance everywhere. Mercilessly, unceasingly, every living thing is ripped into shreds while being blown across the countryside. And the earthquake leaves no place untouched. In many places, the earth's molten sublayer breaks through and spreads a sea of white-hot liquid fire to add to the Holocaust. And remember, a Holocaust is a burnt offering. Within 3 hours, the fantastic wall of water moves across the continent, burying the wind-ravaged land under 2 miles of seething water coast to coast. In a fraction of a day, all vestiges of civilization are gone. And the great cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, New York, are nothing but legends. Barely a stone is left where the millions walked just a few hours before. A few lucky ones who managed to find shelter from the screaming wind on the lee side of Pikes Peak watch the sea of molten fire break through the quaking valleys below. The raging waters follow. piling higher and higher, steaming over the molten earth fire and rising almost to their feet. Only great mountains such as this can withstand the cataclysmic onslaught. North America is not alone in her death throes. Central America suffers the same cannonade. Wind, earth, fire, and inundation. South America finds the Andes not high enough to stop the cataclysmic violence pounded out by nature in her berserk rage. In less than a day, Ecuador, Peru, and western Brazil are shaken madly by the devastating earthquake, burned by molten earth fire, and buried under cubic miles of torrential Pacific seas, and then turned into frozen hell. Everything freezes. Man, beast, plant, and mud are all rock hard in less than 4 hours. Europe cannot escape the onslaught. The raging Atlantic piles higher and higher upon itself. Following the screeching wind eastward, the Alps, Pyrenees, Urals, and Scandinavian mountains are shaken and heaved higher before the wall of water strikes. Western Africa and the sands of the Sahara vanish in nature's wrath under savage attacks by wind and ocean. The area bounded by the Congo, South Africa, and Kenya suffer only severe earthquakes and winds, no inundation. Survivors there marvel at the sun standing still in the sky for nearly half a day. And think about that. It's because the planet would be tipped, right, from the magnetism being pulled forward. And, that's one of the, beliefs about Planet X, Nibiru, is that when it pulls up on us because of, its magnetism, right? And we're going to use magnetism, not gravity. It's magnetism that, as it's coming up from underneath us, it's repelling our magnetic poles, okay? So that's why you're seeing the South Atlantic anomaly, and for those of you who don't know what the South Atlantic anomaly, I'll show you. This is what's causing the poles to split in two. Right? This is what's causing those magnetic poles to split in two. See if you guys can see this picture here. Hopefully you guys can. There we go. Boom. See, we see this anomaly right here in the South Atlantic, and think about something, and this is my thoughts on this. If there is a Planet X, if there is a Nibiru, and even if it is Jupiter, let's say that in these cycles, right, that we all are orbiting around the sun, right? We're all orbiting this one star, but let's say that this is a trinary star system, that Saturn and Jupiter are stars as well, and that all of them are actually orbiting the center of the Milky Way, right? And it appears as if Saturn and Jupiter are in our solar system too, and maybe they are. Maybe they're, on a very similar orbit to us. But throughout these cycles, every so often, Jupiter on its elliptical orbit actually, goes above the Earth. Comes up underneath and above the Earth, past it, right? Every 12,000 or 26,000 years, something like that. And this is a theory out there. Well, on its approach here, if this is a different type of star, because Jupiter is a red planet, right, it would be like a neutron star, a red star, a dwarf star, as compared to our sun, If it was coming up from underneath the ecliptic or a Planet X or whatever, right, you would see something just like this. And this is an image of something that looks to be round with wings, does it not? And it's a negative polarity. You see here, right, on the chart, right, showing you the black is absolute negative, and then positive is on the other end of the spectrum, because we live in a duality, the two poles, right? So we're seeing an anomaly, and what is it causing? It is causing our North Pole, right, and our South Pole to split into two, right? It's causing it to split into two. That's why you see like the dissipation of the magnetic field over, North America and Canada and shit like that, and also in Australia as well, right? These weakening places of magnetic stability that used to be incredibly strong. So. And you can see here, right, inner radiation and outer radiation with the rotational axis. So looking through the Earth, it's like our magnetic energy channels up through the center, right? Just like our aura, right? Our aura, we have through the chakras, right? The alignment of us out the top of our head, right? Same thing with planet Earth on a collective level, okay? And so what is actually causing something to come up from underneath us and split ours, right? On a collective level, to push ours. And it's like, are we getting ready to shift in polarity on the planet as a whole? And if so, are we going from, this negative place or this negative energy to a positive energy to a negative whatever, right? And is it because we are shifting suns? We're having a new sun come up, in front of the one that we already have. Let me go back here. One moment. I gotta find my spot here. Alright. So you see, that is the South Atlantic anomaly, and also too, think about how cosmic rays and all of this within space, and this bulge that is happening around the equatorial line of the Earth, right? This equatorial bulge, that the Earth is actually getting bigger, and that's why, Pangea, we've seen the continents spread outward, because the Earth is actually getting bigger. It's collecting this cosmic dust. It's collecting, this cosmic energy. As the magnetic poles weaken, more of the radiation, cosmic dust are able to penetrate our field, right? And bombard the surface of the planet, which is us being bombarded by this radiation, this radiation has the ability to, change our DNA, change our genetics, and to alter the DNA and genetics of everything on planet Earth. Right now, as that field gets weaker and weaker and thinner, and we're able to get more and more of this shit, like, what is this going to do? Eventually push those poles to the point of no return, and they flip. And we know that there's a migration of these poles. Let me see if I can pull this up. Let me see if I can find an image on it. Let's see if we can find it here. Yeah, so there you go, right? You can see like the migration of the magnetic poles here. It's not Maverick Star Reloaded, but good enough. Let me download the image so you guys can actually see it. It's not behind my camera. Boom. Boom. Right here. Right? You can see how we've actually seen, this has happened, I believe, over, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I believe it's like over the last 130 years, 130-ish years, right? We've seen this magnetic pole migration, right, to where the new magnetic north is going to be Siberia, and the last calculations I've seen, we were far less than 100 miles away from, like we were literally, if like the speed was to keep up, we're probably any fucking day now, right? Like the trajectory, what a lot of people came up with on this trajectory was anywhere from 2024 to 2026, right? 2024 to 2026, where we would reach that 40-degree mark, right? And that 40-degree mark is where we magnetics break down in reverse at 40 degrees, so it would create instability in the magnetic field, right? And that wobble that you were hearing about with the precession of the equinox in the beginning, well, that wobble would take over and we would actually see a polarity flip, right? The flip of the magnetics. And that's where you get the whole Planet X thing of something coming up from underneath, repelling the magnetic pole, and as it actually passes us, it grabs on to the other pole, right? And pulls us downward, right? Face down. And that's where, like in this story of the Adam and Eve, right, where the people in Africa are seeing the sky standing still, and that's why, you know, a lot of people believe we're having these great American eclipses as well too. Right? This is the shadow of this thing actually crossing in front of the sun because it's getting ready to, you know, pass. So, just saying, you know. And then you look at all the signs in the skies and all that. We'll get biblical here in a moment, but I just want to kind of finish this last little piece here before we jump into the Bible, and then we'll get into Daniel's prophecy and all that, and, you know, kind of move into some other stuff. So Eastern Siberia, make sure you hit the thumbs up if you're in the chat. Everybody in the chat should be hitting that thumbs up for me, guys. Seriously, it's free. Eastern Siberia and the Orient suffer a strange fate indeed, as though a giant subterranean scythe swept away the earth's foundations, accompanied by the wind and its screaming symphony of supersonic death and destruction. As the Arctic basin leaves its polar home, Eastern Siberia, Manchuria, China, and Burma are subjected to the same annihilation as South America. And see, leaves its polar home, Eastern Siberia. Jungle animals are shredded to ribbons by the wind, piled into mountains of flesh and bone, and buried under avalanches of seawater and mud. And then comes the terrible, paralyzing cold. Not man, nor beast, nor plant, nor earth is left unfrozen in the entire Eastern Asian continent, most of which remains below sea level. East of the Urals and western Siberia, a few lucky people survived the fantastic winds and quakes. Antarctica and Greenland, with their ice caps, now rotate around the earth in the torrid zone. And the fury of wind and inundation marches on for 6 days and nights. During the 6th day, the oceans start to settle in their new homes, running off the high grounds. On the 7th day, the horrendous rampage is over and the Arctic Ice Age is ended. Notice this happened in 7 days, like the creation, right? And a new Stone Age begins. The oceans, the great homogenizers, have laid down another deep layer of mud over the existing strata in the Great Plains, as exposed in the Grand Canyon, Painted Desert, and Badlands. The Bay of Bengal Basin, just east of India, is now at the North Pole. The Pacific Ocean, just west of Peru, is at the South Pole. And Greenland and Antarctica, now rotating equatorially in the torrid zone, find their ice caps dissolving madly in the tropical heat. Massive walls of water and ice surge toward the oceans, taking everything from mountains to plains in gushing, heaving paths, creating immense seasonal moraines. In less than 25 years, the ice caps are gone too, and the oceans around the world rise over 200 feet with newfound water. The torrid zone will be shrouded in a fog for generations, and the enormous amounts of moisture poured into the atmosphere by the melting in caps. New ice caps begin to form in the new polar areas. Greenland and Antarctica emerge with verdant tropical foliage. Australia is the new unexplored continent in the North Temperate Zone, with only a few handfuls of survivors populating its vastness. New York lies at the bottom of the Atlantic, shattered and melted by earth fire. and covered by unbelievable amounts of mud. Of San Francisco and Los Angeles, no traces left. Egypt emerges from its Mediterranean inundation new and higher, still the land of the ages. The commonplace of our time becomes the mysterious Baalbek of the new era. A new era. Yes, the cataclysm has done its work well. The greatest population regulator of all does once more for man what he refuses to do for himself, and drives a pitiful few who are to survive into a new Stone Age. Once more the earth has shifted its 60-mile thick shell, with the poles moving almost to the equator in a fraction of a day. Again, the atmosphere and oceans refusing to change direction with the earth's shell have wiped out almost all life. After this tumble, we join Noah, Adam and Eve, Atlantis, Mu and Olympus, and Jesus joins Osiris and Teroa and Zeus and Vishnu. Boom. Within a day, and like I said, I believe, according to these cosmic cycles, like it would happen something very, very, very fast. I mean, very fast. Within a fraction of a day. It's something that's been building up and anticipating over time. And also think a day is 1,000 years to God. So it's like, time. Time is a tricky fucking thing when we're really thinking about it and looking at all of this as kind of like a whole. Like, what would a day be? What would 1,000 years be? And, according to us, we're such a little blip on the radar here, Now we're going to jump into some other stuff. I am going to try to read the comments. If anybody... I don't know what I caught the tail end of something like that. Yeah, that's more true than anything. Small in comparison to massive events unfolding. Yeah, and that's kind of like the thing, Like if you look at these cycles, guys. I mean, honestly, the cycles that we've endured. I'm not sure what's going on. Sorry, guys. You can, if you have something to say to me or whatever, if you need to speak to me, Paolo, you can message me or email me or text me or whatever. And I'll talk to you after the show. But I appreciate everybody. So, when we kind of like look at all these things as a whole, we look at all these things as a whole. We're such a small blip on the radar. We're such a small dot on the map. It's hard for us to fathom and wrap our heads around this. When we look at cycles, like we see the year go by, decades and centuries to us is a long time. And then to imagine everything just shifting all at once, like this cosmic fucking scale happening overnight within a week's time. But it also makes sense when you truly think about it. Because if we're at this point where, things are just barely holding on, right? Barely holding on to stability with the magnetic pole, it could be, any day. And all hell breaks loose. Any day. Right? And remember, like, the GPS for the global positioning system, they had to, redo that shit like 2 years early because the magnetics are changing that fucking fast. That fast. And we're all forbidden from Antarctica and all that shit. Why is that? Is there something coming up from underneath us? There's a million different, questions I have when it comes to this. Probably 1,000 people on the entire planet that are drawn to these topics. The dead don't resonate with this. Oh, I'm cool. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. This is what I do. This is what I love. I do love these topics. I love talking about these things. Fuck Taylor Swift. That's why, I don't even do the Illuminati. I don't like the Illuminati fake shit either, where everybody's like, oh, everybody's, they cover their eyes. It's like they don't even understand the mysteries. They don't understand the cycles, none of it. So it's like, I'm to the point to where it's like, I just want to do my own thing. I just want to do my own thing. I don't care. The people that watch are meant to watch. The people that watch are meant to watch. The undead are outside the ice wall in Antarctica. Hey, and I did see a really cool map of the ice wall in Antarctica. We should take a look at that and see what we can hear. Let's see. Right here. Yes, this is it. Right here. Right, this is that map. And I have one of the older maps, too, of the world. So it's like we should actually get into this, too. And kind of talk about some of this. These maps of the world. Like, in the whole concept of Atlantis. And remember, Atlantis was like this, guys. It was like, the circle within the circle and shit like that. So it's like, is Atlantis actually planet Earth? But this is like supposedly what the Earth actually looks like. We would be on this inner ring, right? We would be on that inner ring. Shit. And as consciousness expands, do we go, outward in our expansion of the Earth? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts when it comes to the Earth, and I'm going to pose a few questions here. This is for everybody on Facebook, everybody on YouTube, and everybody on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, just quote the tweet and give me your answer. YouTube, put it in the chat, put it in the comment section. Facebook, put it in the comments, and all that. What are your thoughts? And I'm going to ask a few questions here. What are your thoughts on the possibility of an ice wall, right? And how do you believe that it connects to, these cosmic cycles? Do you believe that there's more land that is accessed for us as we expand in consciousness, right? Do you believe that there are other beings and entities and things of that nature that are living outside of this? What do you see the Earth like? Do you believe the Earth is round, like a globe? It looks like a parabolic dish. It is flat as a pizza. It's hollow. Do you believe it's a toroidal field? Do you believe it's a snow globe? Do you believe it's just a holographic projection? I would love to hear your thoughts on these things because, and I'm going to start, and whoever, give some of the better comments, I'm going to do videos on these things now, moving forward. We're going to look at, Antarctica and Hollow Earth and all this. We're going to look at the more interesting things, but we're going to look at it from a different point of view when we do. From now on, when I look at things, I don't want to look at it from that fucking lame-ass, airy-fairy, new age fucking weirdo shit where everybody acts like, like the same phrases and keywords and trigger words, or, it's like, God, it's so lame. And everybody acts like they're so enlightened and all of this. It's like, God damn, I don't like that angle of looking at things. It's fake and disingenuous to me. And then I don't like looking at the angle of things too where people are completely oblivious. They look at everything from this exoteric external point of view, whether it's Illuminati and space and all of this, and it's like, as if that's true. It's like Illuminati dolphins and shit like that. It's like, are you fucking retarded? You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing esoteric about any of this. This is, and this is dumbing all of you down. You're all being dumbed down by this type of content. You're not breaking through any truth. You're not connecting any dots. Chrono Trigger Deep Dive on YouTube. What is that? Chrono Trigger Deep Dive. I'm not sure what that is, bro. Tell me what that is. But it's like I don't want to look at things from, the same point of view and perspective that all these other people are, because these are people that don't know, their asshole from a hole in the ground. And the reason that they go viral, the reason that they have, all these fucking followers and shit like that is because of that. They're misleading everyone. They're not doing it on purpose, I don't think. I think these people just don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and that's why it's allowed to get pushed out there. And I'm not saying I know everything. But, I know more than that shit. So, we're going to start to take a look here, and then we're going to move into the Bible as well. Yes, I will leave this up for a day or two. I'll leave this up for a day or two with the other playlist, and then it's going to Patreon. We had our patrons dropped about in half last month. I don't know why, but so we're gonna have to, whenever I'm not in it to get rich. I just do this because I love doing it. But it's like also I do need support. So it's like I'm torn between the two. A lot of times I want to give everything for free, and I want to do everything for free. I really do. And I used to be able to. Everything used to be free, and it was just all donations and shit. But it's like people don't donate anymore, and so it's like we put more value on the video if we say, hey, this thing ain't gonna be up, forever. So it's like, watch it when it comes out. Watch it live. It puts more incentive for people to watch it live. And then if you want to have access to all these playlists of my best content, then it's like, hey, support us. So, all right. Let's jump in here. I think I'm going to go to Daniel. All right. The angel gives a message to Daniel. The angel gives a message to Daniel. And this is like the prophecy of Daniel. And remember, all of these prophecies, in my opinion, are talking about cycles, ends of ages, and everything. Right? While we're at it. Let me get this ready. Oh, God. There it went. Fuck. We're going to get the Hail of Stones and all of that ready for this book, too. I gotta find it real quick. There it went. Bam. The Hail of Stones. Let me highlight that so I can see it. Alright. Following the red dust. Alright, so here we go. And we'll go ahead and hit this first, and then we'll jump into Daniel. Now, the hail of stones, following the red dust, a small dust-like ashes of the furnace fell in all the land of Egypt in Exodus, and then a shower of meteorites flew towards the earth. Our planet entered deeper into the tail of the comet. The dust was a forerunner of the gravel, and there fell a very grievous hail, such has not been in Egypt since its foundations. Stones of Barad, here translated as hail, as in most places were mentioned in the scriptures, the term for meteorites, which also informed Midrashic and Talmudic sources that the stones which fell on Egypt were hot. This fits only meteorites, not a hail of ice. In the scriptures it is said that It's estimated that approximately 1 ton of meteorite dust falls, that these stones fell mingled with fire, the meaning of which I shall discuss as the following section, and that their fall was accompanied by loud noises, rendered as thunderings. A translation was only figurative and not literally correct, because the word for thunder is ram or ram. Isn't that weird? Thundering. So this is like, coming from ram or ram, right? In this age of the ram, right? It's weird. Which is not used here. The fall of meteorites is accompanied by crashes or explosion-like noises. And in this case, they were so mighty that according to the scriptural narrative, the people in the palace were terrified as much by the din of the falling stones as by the destruction that they caused. The red dust had frightened the people, and a warning to keep men and cattle under shelter had been issued. Gather thy cattle and all that thou hast in the field. For upon every man and beast which shall be found in the field and shall not be brought home, the hailstones shall come down upon them, and they shall die. And he that regarded not the word of the Lord left his servants and cattle in the field. Similarly, the Egyptian eyewitness, cattle are left to stray, and there is none to gather them together. Each man fetcheth for himself those that are branded with his name. Falling stones and fire made the frightened cattle flee. Grain has perished on every side. That has perished which yesterday was seen. The land is left to its weariness like the cutting of flax. In one day fields were turned to wastelands. In the book of Exodus it is written, and the hailstones of Barad smote every herb of the field and brake every tree of the field. The destruction of such a catastrophe is found in the Visuddhimagga, a Buddhist text on the world cycles. When a world cycle is destroyed by wind, there arises in the beginning a cycle destroying great cloud. And that is interesting too. Let's go ahead and kind of talk about this a little bit. This cycle destroying great cloud. Remember, when we're looking at the biblical text, and I always want to kind of take you back to the spiritual connotation of these words, right? Because whenever we're looking at this, we really need to understand the etymology of a lot of these words and what they actually mean, where they derive from, and what the true esoteric meaning of this means. So the Buddhist text on the world cycles, when a world cycle is destroyed by wind, remember wind, spirit, breath, consciousness, right? There arises in the beginning a cycle destroying great cloud. Remember, behold, he's coming on the clouds. What does cloud mean? Consciousness. So there arises in the beginning a cycle destroying great consciousness. When a world cycle is destroyed by spirit, there arises in the beginning a cycle destroying great consciousness. There arises a spirit to destroy the world cycle. And first it raises a fine dust, and then a coarse dust, and then fine sand, and then a coarse sand, and then grit and stones up to boulders as large, sending upon the latter a hail of sand. And think about that too. Let's kind of look at that from both points of view. Yes, there could be actual things in space, hail and sand, and this great wind that's bringing this destruction upon the earth. That is, it seems like that actually happened, right? To say the least. But look at it from the spiritual connotation as well. It's like, at the end of these cycles, it's spirit that rises up. It's consciousness that rises up. And first it starts, it's like a little irritating, right? A little shitty. Then it gets bigger and worse. And it's like, what have you seen happen, over the last 7 years? With us and everybody in the world. A great consciousness has arisen. As mighty trees on the hilltops, the wind turns the ground upside down. Large areas crack and are thrown upwards. All the mansions on earth are destroyed in a catastrophe when worlds clash with worlds. The Mexican annals of Cahuitlan, describe how a cosmic catastrophe was accompanied by a hail of stones. In the oral tradition of the Indians, too, the motif is repeated time and again. In some ancient epoch, the sky rained, not water, but fire and red-hot stones, which is not different from the Hebrew tradition, naphtha. Crude petroleum is composed of two elements, carbon and hydrogen. The main theories of the origin of petroleum are: 1. The inorganic theory. Hydrogen and carbon were brought together in the rock formations of the earth under the great heat and pressure. And 2. The organic theory. Both the hydrogen and carbon which compose petroleum come from the remains of plant and animal life, in the main from microscopic marine and swamp life. The organic theory implies that the process started after life was already abundant, at least at the bottom of the ocean. The tales of comets are composed mainly of carbon and hydrogen gases. Lacking oxygen, they do not burn in flight, but the inflammable gases passing through an atmosphere containing oxygen will be set on fire. If carbon and hydrogen gases or vapor of a composition of these two elements enter the atmosphere in huge masses, a part of them will burn, binding all the oxygen available at the moment. Even before Plutarch, the problem of the origin of petroleum was much discussed. Speaking of the visit of Alexander to petroleum sources of Iraq, Plutarch said, "There has been much discussion about the origin of this naphtha, but in the extent of the Plutarch, a sentence containing one of two rival views is missing. Whether rather the liquid substance that feeds the flame flows out from the soil, which is rich and productive of fire. Rest will escape combustion, but in a swift transition will become liquid. Falling on the ground, substance, if liquid, would sink into the pores of the sand, into the cleft between the rocks. Falling on water, it would remain floating in the fire, and the air is extinguished before the new supplies of oxygen arrive from other regions. The descent of a sticky fluid came eastward and blazed with heavy smoke is recalled in the oral and written traditions of the inhabitants of both hemispheres. The Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Mayas, it was ruin and destruction. The sea was piled up. It was a great inundation. People were drowned in a sticky substance raining from the sky. The face of the earth grew dark and gloomy, and rain endured days and nights, and there was a great din of fire above their heads. The entire population of the land was annihilated. And with that great din of fire above their heads, how many different images have we seen? Oops. Shit, man. See any images of that, but you guys see, right? Breathing in a fire above their heads. Images of what people have seen. This red dust and all of this. And let me pull this up. See? Motherfucker's literally capturing what looks like a red planet, right? A red object, and it does have the wings, it does have the darkness to it, which if we're thinking about something that is so dark that doesn't allow light to escape, right? And this dwarf star that gives off this red light instead of what the sun gives off of. I'm just saying, like, there's been so much of this kind of stuff caught on camera over the years. What's very strange is that it doesn't actually crash into the earth ever. But how do we know if it never will, Or how do we know that, in the wake, like when we're passing through the tail of one of these things, that isn't what they were actually experiencing? And that's what many people believe, that this thing has like a 20 million mile long tail, and that it's actually us going through the tail of this thing is what fucks us up, that it don't actually hit the earth. It goes past us, and there's so much dust and debris flying off of the sides of it. For one, the magnetism and the power of the star as it passes fucks us up consciously, causes the magnetic poles to shift, right? The pulling of the earth, and that pulling of the atmosphere sounding like trumpets ringing and all of this. The shift in consciousness, things getting weird, reality getting weird, people getting weird because of the electromagnetic field. We losing our memory and all of it, right? And then as it passes, the dust and debris causing the red sky and, the meteorites and the earthquakes and the destruction and the train of water from the oceans up in its tail. So that, that is what a lot of people do believe, that that's exactly what will happen of this. And we've heard of, all through these ancient accounts, something very similar, have we not? Right? When we look at like Exodus and the parting of the Red Sea, right? And we look at, just really, the Colburn and the destroyer, and, and it talks about the water being poisoned and the fire coming down and the destruction. And like just now, and, in Egypt, how they were talking about all of the men and cattle needed to be under shelter, right? Now, if we look at the book of Daniel, we're going to see at the end of another cycle, right? This is when the cycle was ending as well, and he got a message, right, from an angel. So what this message was? Excuse me. The angel gives Daniel a message. 3 more kings will arise from Persia, then a 4th. And we're going to look at the etymology of these words. We're going to do that, right? And I just want to kind of point out, we're going to look at the spiritual connotation of these things too. I'm sorry if you're a Bible thumper, but I'm not sorry. Right? Sorry, not sorry if you're a Bible thumper. I do not believe the false doctrine of Christianity. I believe that is a false doctrine. I believe that it's a doctrine of devils, It's something to tickle everybody's ears, and that it was written by, the Romans and the Council of Nicaea and King James, and, the governments gave you that doctrine. That is not a spiritual doctrine at all. It tells you that the political state of Israel is Israel, right? It's a satanic political state, when it clearly tells you that's the synagogue of Satan. Excuse me. And people believe that, the United States is in Babylon, and just all these different things. It's like, wow, I can't go along with it. The pre-tribulation rapture nonsense, that's not biblical, all of it. So, 3 more kings will arise from Persia, then a 4th. And remember these 4 ages, right, that we were talking about at the beginning. 4 elements, right? So 3 kings, right? 3 kings. Let's see the translation of king here. It's Malki, which means Malak, to reign, to ascend to the throne. So 3 more ascensions, right, into royalty. Remember, this is sovereignty too, and royalty, to take counsel, to induct into royalty. So 3 more times to be inducted into royalty will arise from Persia. Then a 4th. Persia is an eastern country, including its inhabitants, and we look at like the destruction from the east, right? Aries and the age of the air. So I'm just saying, kind of keep these things in mind. Then a fourth king will be unusually rich, more so than all who preceded him. When he has amassed power through his riches, he will stir up everyone against the kingdom of Greece. Then a powerful king will arise, exercising a great authority and doing as he pleases. Shortly after his rise to power, his kingdom will be broken up and distributed toward the four winds of the sky. And there you go. This powerful king, right, that will arise, exceeding great authority, which is a powerful warrior. And you think about the two brothers, one being Enlil, the warrior, right? There's always the warrior and the shepherd, right? Will arise, will ascend, right? Will stand. So this warrior will stand, exercising great authority, doing as he pleases. Shortly after his rise to power, the kingdom will be broken up and distributed toward the four winds of the sky. Remember, the four winds are also the four archangels, right? Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. And this is also north, south, east, west, right? And this is also the four elements, right? So this is all of it right here. These four winds of the sky. But not to his posterity or with the authority he exercised, for his kingdom will be uprooted and distributed to the others besides these. Then the king of the south, which is Judah, Egypt, occasionally Egypt as south to Israel. So the king of Egypt and one of his subordinates will grow strong. His subordinate will resist him and rule a kingdom greater than his. After some years have passed, they will form an alliance, and the daughter of the king of the south will come to the king of the north and make an agreement. But she will not retain her power. And I just kind of want to point out, like in the Anunnaki story, right? Anu and, what was his name? Alalu or whatever. The two kings from the north and the south, they come together and unite a kingdom, right? And then when we look at some of the prophecies that talk about how the next son will be a girl, right? And then we look at divine feminine, just trying to, it gets a lot better when we move into the next part, but I just want to kind of preface things first. The kings of the south will be enraged, will march out to fight against the kings of the north, who will also muster a large army. But that army will be delivered into his hand. When the army is taken away, the king of the south will become arrogant. He will be responsible for the death of thousands and thousands of people. But he will not continue to prevail, for the king of the north will again muster an army, one larger than before. And at the end of some years, he will advance with a huge army and enormous supplies. In those times, remember, in those days, this is always talking about the last days or the end, right? In those days, in that day, at that time, in those times, you'll see that repeated in the Bible all throughout. In those times, many will oppose the king of the south. Those who are violent among your own people will rise up in confirmation of the vision, but they will falter. Then the king of the north will advance and will build siege mounds and capture a well-fortified city. And I believe the north means the hidden, right? One of them means the hidden, yeah. Yep, the north means the dark, right? So one is a king of Egypt and one is a king of darkness, right? And isn't it weird how when we look at like these meanings, right, of these different words with the etymology in the Bible, it's like it kind of starts to become mind-blowing when we think about it. It's like, what do you mean? South means Egypt, north means darkness, right? Like, you're never going to hear that in church. They're never going to tell you these things in church. They're never going to tell you the four winds, the four horsemen, the four seals, and all of that, are all the same thing. That they're north, south, east, west news, right? That they're the four archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. That they're the four elements, right? Fire, wind, water, earth, right? They're never going to tell you that. They don't know it themselves. They believe all of it just only happens physically. And like matter of fact, here we go. Let's go to, I'll try to read through this really fast because I want to get to the next one. That's where it really gets to this. And it talks about Michael standing up, which is Jupiter. We're going to get into that. So here we go. The forces in the south will not prevail. Okay. He will give the king of the south a daughter in marriage in order to destroy the kingdom, but will not turn out to his advantage, right? And we just talked about this, how the north and the south with the Anunnaki tale, right? And then we'll turn his attention to the coastal regions and will capture many of them. But a commander will bring his shameful conduct to a halt. In addition, he will make him pay for his shameful conduct. He will then turn his attention to the fortresses of his own land, but he will stumble and fall, not to be found again. There will rise after him one who will send out an exactor of tribute to enhance the splendor of the kingdom, but after a few days he will be destroyed, though not in anger or battle. There will arise in his place a despicable person to whom royal honor has not been rightfully conferred. He will come on the scene in a time of prosperity and will seize the kingdom through deceit. And dude, this just kind of makes me wonder about the allegory of this. These different kings that are rising up out of the hidden, out of the deep, out of the darkness, right? These different kings. Right? Remember, there's always an upper Egypt and a lower Egypt, talking about the lower self and the higher self. And that darkness, to me, represents the, like outer space. It is outer space, actually. It's the darkness, or, the hidden, the deep, the abyss. It's also the outside of our psyche, right? So it's into the void, or the collective, So it's the outer psyche, the outer consciousness. But it's talking about these different kings that are rising up. One being coming, and he'll be good, and he'll be destroyed in a few days. Are these generations, or are these epochs that were being described, these different kings, And I don't know if a lot of people agree with me on that, but I feel like that is what is being talked about. And it's like talking about these different ages of mankind. There will arise a despicable person whom the royal honor has not been rightfully conferred. He will come on the scene at a time of prosperity. This is probably our age, since the kingdom through deceit. Armies will suddenly be swept away in defeat, but before him, both they and a covenant leader, remember the covenant, the Ark of the Covenant, right? The covenant, let me pull it up. Where's my cursor here? Right, the covenant. A compact, the sense of cutting, to select, to feed, to render clear, to create. Right, to select or to create is a covenant. Remember the Ark of the Covenant. Ark represents the firmament, right? And that covenant is represented by the rainbow, those 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 planets, right, which are the watchers of the governors, right, the rulers of this reality. After entering into an alliance with him, he will behave treacherously. He will ascend to power with only a small force. In a time of prosperity for most productive areas of the province, he will come and accomplish what neither his father nor their fathers accomplished. He will distribute loot, spoils, and property to his followers. And he will devise plans against fortified cities, but not for long. He will rouse his strength and enthusiasm against the king of the south with a large army. The king of the south will wage war with a large and very powerful army and will be killed in battle. These 2 kings, their minds filled with evil intentions, will trade lies with one another at the same table. But it will not succeed, for there is still an end to there's still at the end, his disheartened, he'll turn his back and direct indignation. All right, so let's just go to the next one here. This is getting a little bit tongue-tying. All right, now 12. Now here we go. And like I said, kind of think of the first, Daniel 11 as like this description of these ages. So like these kings representing, remember, like sovereignty. And at the 32nd degree of Freemasonry, we discover that we are our own king, right? Our own sovereign, our own being. And remember, like all throughout history, all the rulers and the monarchs were called sovereigns. So, and king also in the tarot represents someone that is 40 years old. So it's a number 40 as well, right? And we know that 40 is very symbolic, Moses 40 years, Jesus 40 days, Jonah 40 days, right? So 40 is a very, very symbolic number. And then Enki, right? The 40 days of, what is his scribe's name? His scribe, 40 days, right, without food and water. So the 40, being very symbolic. So at that time, and there it is again, there's at that time, right? This meaning, like at the end, at the end of an age. Whenever they say at that time, in that day, right, they're talking about a specific point. Right, and that specific point is at the end of a cycle, right? In that time, in that day, they're talking about this very magical moment, right? So at that time, Michael, which is who is like God, the name of the archangel of the 9 Israelites. Remember, there's 9 celestial spheres, right? 9 celestial spheres as well, right? The 9 Israelites. Let me see if I can pull some of this up and kind of show you the difference on this. Ki is another name for Michael, is Ki. And remember we were talking about earlier with the Ki thing, right? Ancient Chinese with the Ki, right? Enki, right? And then the Ka and the Ba with the Egyptians. So the Ki or Ka, right? So Michael, one of his names is Ki. Okay, is one derivation of it. And another is firm strength or sturdiness. Firm grip of the hand. Firm grip of the hand. Like the right hand of God, right? Sturdy. As indomitable and supreme durability. And abbreviated especially God as a superior or indomitable strength. God as a superior or indomitable strength. And then the root of the word come from who is me or which or whoever. Ki, very widely used as a relative conjunction or adverb. And sturdiness, firm grip. And let's show you here. Fuck you. What is this? I don't know why this is pumped up. It's Michael Planet. Okay. Let's see if we can pull this up. Jupiter symbolizing royalty. Let's see if I can get this pulled up here. See if we can introducing the planetary angels, and hopefully we can get this Michael, Sun, Zodiacal, Archangels, Jupiter. So this one they say that Zodiacal, Archangel is Jupiter. Let's see that Michael, right, the Sun. Huh. Interesting. That's different than what I've seen in the past. Right? We'll consider it, We'll consider it. Who knows? Maybe it's right. But I like to understand who is who and what is what when we're looking at this. Like, who are we talking about? Who is being, what planet, when we're talking about these planets, which ones are we talking about? Is, So at that time, Michael, meaning who is like God, the great prince, and remember, great prince is older, right? Older, Gadol, right? God, Gadol, right? Great prince. And prince is head person. Prince also derives from, let's see if it pulls it up, to have exercise or to get dominion. And prince also means a planet as well, right? So a prince is not just a head person or to have rule or any of that. It's also a planet, a luminary, a heavenly host, right? The whole nine. So at that time, Michael, he who is like God, the great planet, the great prince, the old planet, who watches over your people. Watches, and remember these are the watchers, right? The watchers, the archons, the rulers of the reality. So this great prince, this great planet, this old planet who watches over your people will arise, will stand, will arise, will continue, dwell, endure, establish, make, ordain, raise up, remain, repair, serve, set forth, tie, tip, make to. Okay. So at that time, so this is the last days, Michael, right, which can be the sun or Jupiter. I've heard it Jupiter, but the last one just said the sun. The great prince or old planet who watches over your people will arise. There will be a time of distress. Right? A time of distress, which is a time of anguish, affliction, tribulation. This is a time of tribulation, a time of trouble. Unlike any other from the nations beginning. This is the forward nation, Gentiles. Unlike any other from the Gentiles beginning, this is also a troop of animals or a flight of locusts. Now I want you to think about the original beings here, right? These original beings, these primordial entities, these primordial creatures, these primordial beings. And what was the book? We did this, the video I believe is like Edgar Casey and Atlantis. I did the book, or read the book and did a video on it. It's a really good video. It might be in the Forbidden Occult series though. But we talked about this, right? We talked about this. And this time of distress from the nation's beginning, right? And this foreign nation, right? Foreign nation, so meaning not, to me, in an esoteric point of view, like a Gentile, a foreign nation, means it's not of the spirit, right? It's not natural to us. And this troop of animals, or flight of locusts, right? Okay, so this animals, think about the sons of the law of one, right? And it talks about these primordial entities and how they descended down into human form, and they commingled with animals, right? They just basically took their favorite beings, our first form, the first version of fallen angels in this book. And I did a video on it. And in this version of the story, these primordial entities, they descend onto Earth. Earth was like a playground, basically, for collective consciousness, for God energy. Like, so we would come here and we would create and we would play and we just did whatever we wanted, you know? It was like we were all connected and unified as one, and, you know, everything was like perfection. This would be like your Garden of Eden, right? And then some of us came here on Earth and tried to create things that were like our favorite stuff. So it's like we made half man, half goat because we loved goats and we loved men. We made half man, half fish, or a fish head and man legs, and so on and so forth. Right? And when we did that and we descended into the physical, we got trapped. We got trapped. And because we commingled with these animal spirits, we had animal tendencies, right? Our consciousness was trapped. We went to a low form of consciousness, and we weren't just men, in this form. We were like men and goats, men and bulls, men and horses. So imagine that animal spirit and how animals are carnal, right? They're completely carnal. They just want sex and to eat and to fight, right? So this form of consciousness, this pure consciousness, traps itself, with a dog head and shit like that, and it becomes demonic, right? It becomes demonic, and it gets stuck here. No longer has the awareness of the all, of the wholeness, because it's in such a low vibration, and it's trapped in the density of reality, right? And these ended up becoming the Egyptian gods and shit like that, where you see like Thoth with a bird head and Anubis with a dog head and all of that, right? That's where, some people believe. And when we look at the troop of animals, a lot of times when we see animals mentioned, also it mentions serpents, right? So it's like a fiery serpent, fabulous kind of serpent as well. So keep that in mind. Then when we look at the flight of locusts, right, and if we think about the bottomless pit, right, the abyss, which is what the fallen were thrown into, right, by who? Michael, he who was like God, right? Why would we not be who he was like God as well? Think about it. He who is like God, we're made in God's image. So he who is like God, Michael, could be us, right? And it's the Son as well, right? So the Son of God, he who is like God, right? Just saying. Or are we talking about a celestial sphere, right? With this Saturn sun, type of concept, or the actual sun that we exist in now, or exist under now, or is this Jupiter as a sun? Remember, when we looked at like the Judaic beliefs, like they changed gods from Jupiter to Saturn, right? So at one point it was believed that Jupiter was actually the sun, right? And then it went to Saturn and so on and so forth. And then we talked about the story of Venus and all of this, or Prometheus, or Lucifer and his fall, and how he used to be in orbit, a satellite around Jupiter. We used to be, and this we end up becoming the hammer and bracelet when the collisions happened and all of that, right? So at that time, Michael, the great prince or great planet, old planet, who watches over your people, the Watchers, the 7 main planets, which there's 9 celestial spheres. Remember, 10 is a number of God. So there's 9 levels or dimensions that we actually inhabit, right? You look at all these tales and stories from throughout the entire night, all of them talk about 9 destructions, right? Either 4 destructions, representing 4 elements, 6 or 7 destructions, representing the 7 planets, 7 days, or 9 or 10 destructions for the entire dimensions, right? But always these numbers, always consistent with these numbers, right? So, at that time, the great prince who watches over your people, this watcher, right? This governor, this archon, this ruler of the reality, this lord, right? There will arise, meaning will stand up, right? Will stand up. That energy will ascend. That energy will arise. That energy will be brought forth. This sun energy, this enlightened energy, this Enki energy, right? Enki, that is also the god of the Piscean age as well, right? Jupiter, water. There will be a time of distress, a time of tribulation, unlike any other from the nations beginning. The nation means a flight of locusts. This is animals. This is that demonic spirit that is within all of us, our mammalian side, which we have a mammalian reptilian side of our brain, and the flight of locusts, right? Which the flight of locusts, it's locusts that come up out of the bottomless pit, right? At the end. But at that time, your own people, and notice at that time, what time? Now. What time? Now. At that time, the end of the age. There is no time. Right? There's nothing new under the sun. This story repeats over and over and over. You're in that time right now. At that time, your own people, all those whose names are found written in the book, will escape. Let's take a look at that. Written in the book will escape, to come forth, appear, or exist, attain. Attain its scroll, right? The scroll of truth, this document. Think about that. The sky rolling up like a scroll. In the book of Revelations, where they eat the scroll and it's sweet in his mouth and bitter in his belly. The scroll of truth, right? At that time, whose names are found written in the book will escape. So those who are written in the book of life, the Lamb's book of life, those who are written in the truth, right, will escape. Many of those who sleep. Many of those who sleep. Many of those who sleep, which means to be slack or languid, to die, spiritually dead. Spiritually dead, right? Many of those who are spiritually dead, who are sleeping, right? They grow old, stale, or invertebrate. So this is also people that are stagnant. They're spiritually stagnant. And if you think about that, right? Many of those who sleep in the dusty ground will awake. Many of the dead will awake, right? And these are the spirit. And think about this, the dusty ground. What does that actually mean when we think about the dusty ground, right? From the dust we came, from the dust we shall return. When we were taken away from the Garden of Eden, this perfected collective conscious state, right? What happened to us? We were made to get our substance from the dirt, right? From the sweat of our brow, right? So everything to do with the ground, we were made out of the dirt, out of the dust. Okay? Prometheus put the divine spark in the clay, which is also the dust. So many of those who sleep in the dusty ground will awake, meaning us. Us. Us that are asleep, consciously asleep, without awareness in the physical form that come from the earth. Those of us that come from the earth, right, will awake. Some to everlasting life. Some to everlasting life. Time out of mind. Wow. Time out of mind, or eternity. This is outside of the mental construct. Time out of mind, the vanishing point, concealed, occulted, hidden. Right? Many of those who sleep in the dusty ground will awake. Some to time out of mind, meaning stepping outside of the mental prison, in eternity. Many of those who sleep the dusty ground will awake, some to everlasting life, and others to shame and everlasting abhorrence. Think about that. Some to everlasting life, some becoming awakened, coming from this physical state and shifting into a higher state of consciousness, and others to shame and everlasting abhorrence, which is to be disgraced, right? Some will wake up to shame and disgrace. Some will be exposed. To expose, to betroth, or defame, to spend the winter, to pull off. So others to shame and everlasting abhorrence. But the wise will shine. The wise, which means the intelligent will shine. Gleam, enlightened. The intelligent will be enlightened. Think about this, man. It's telling you that this last day here, right? when the sun or Jupiter or whatever, goes into this moment, at that time, that old planet who watches over your people will arise. There will be a time of distress, unlike any other from the beginning. Unlike any other. At that time, the great prince who watches over your people will arise. There will be a time of distress unlike any other from the nation's beginning. Up at that time, there will be a time of your own people. All those whose names are found written in the book will escape. Many of those who sleep in the dusty ground will awake, some to everlasting light and others to shame and everlasting abhorrence. But the wise will shine, the intelligent will be enlightened, like the brightness of the heavenly expanse. Like the brightness, like the brilliancy of the heavenly expanse. And we're just going to see that heavenly expanse, like the brightness of the heavenly expanse, the brilliancy of the heavenly expanse, the Zohar as well. Just saying, those who are enlightened. Those who enlightened. The brightness of the heavenly expanse, and to those bringing many to righteousness will be like stars forever and ever. Now think about that. This is you guys. This is you. The wise will shine, the intelligent will become enlightened. Like the brightness of the heavenly expanse. This is like literally the sky, the firmament. Like the lights of the firmament. You will shine. Because you are the lights of the firmament. Remember, everything is being projected. Right? Everything is being projected. We live in a holographic projection. The intelligent will shine like the brightness of the firmament. In those bringing many to righteousness will be like the stars forever and ever. But you, Daniel, close up these words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many will dash about and knowledge will increase. See, he said, close it up until now. Close it up until now. Right? When the time comes, at that time, close it up until the end. Many will dash about. Many will push forth. Knowledge will increase. Daniel watched as two others stood there on each side of the river. One said to the man in fine clothed and fine linen who was above the waters of the river, "When will the end of these wondrous events occur?" Then I heard the man clothed in linen, who was over the waters of the river, raise both his right and left hand to the sky. Daniel watches two others on each side of the river. One said the man clothed in fine linen. And think about the linen thing too. Linen is like... So fabrics have like a different conductivity to spiritual energy, right? So linen is one of the most spiritual entities on the earth. And I don't know if we can pull that up, but I'm sure I could if I wanted to look for it. But it's like artificial fabrics and shit basically like take energy. So it's like wool and linen, I think. Wool is like neutral. Polyester and shit is like negative. So if you're like the clothes you're wearing are conducive to specific energy. That's why, Christ and the disciples and shit would wear like, linen and shit like that. Like it was because of its spiritual properties. It allowed for positive energy to be magnified right through their auric field as they wore it. And other types of clothing and material actually would drain them. literally drain them. Many of those who keep in the dusty ground, Daniel watched it over there. The one said to the man clothed in linen on the waters of the river, when will the end of these wondrous events occur? Then I heard the man clothed in linen who was over the waters of the river, as he raised his right and left hand to the sky, and made an oath by the one who lives forever. It is for a time, and half a time. Then when the power of the one who shatters the holy people has been exhausted, all things will be finished. So, time, and half a time. 3.5 year period. Once again, we see the time, and half a time. Right? When the power of the one who shatters the holy people has been exhausted, all these things will be finished. I heard, but I did not understand. I heard, but I did not understand. So I said, Sir, what will happen after these things? He said, Go, Daniel, for these matters are closed and sealed until the time of the end. Many will be purified, made clean, and refined, but the wicked will go on being wicked. None of the wicked will understand. Wow. Think about this. So, sorry guys, I'm having trouble seeing this. My contacts are a little dry. Alright. I heard, but I did not understand. So I said, Sir, I got this. I pulled it up. Tell me if they're not describing our time. Right here. Let me highlight this so you can see it. I heard, but I did not understand. So I said, Sir, what will happen after these things? He said, Go, Daniel. For these matters are closed and sealed until the end sealed until the time of the end. The time of the end. Many will be purified, made clean, and refined. And remember, these are refined by the fires of affliction. God corrects the ones that He loves, right? So this is the process of the dark night of the soul, shadow work, all the stuff that you have been going through, right? During this 7-year period. This was your refining process. This is what we see in the Bible where God cast His net, which is His magnetic net, His magnetic field, His aura, right? And gathers together His, refining them by the fires of affliction, purifying them like gold. That is this. That is that process. I heard, but I did not understand. So I said, Sir, what will happen after these things? He said, Go, Daniel, for these matters are closed and sealed until the time of the end. It's you can't understand it until that time anyways, right? Many will be purified and made clean and refined, but the wicked will go on being wicked. None of the wicked will understand, though the wise will understand. Though the wise will understand. From the time that the daily sacrifice is removed and the abomination that causes desolation is set in place, there are 1,290 days. Blessed is the one who waits and attains to the 1,335 days. But you should go your way until the end. You will rest, and then at the end of the days, you will arise to receive what you have been allotted. Now think about this. Think about this. Not having this awareness of what's being said to you in the spirit here, because it's like you're not awakened yet. It's not that time. You don't have the knowledge available to you. Right? And you're being told, like, this has already happened. This is already sealed. This is already set in stone. This is written in your genetics, written in the stars, written in your DNA. Right? And then at this time, people are going to be made clean. They're going to be purified. They're going to be changed. But the others, these others, basically living in darkness, having no understanding. These are why people are blind right now, right? You see all the people that are blind here on the earth. They have no clue of what's going on, no clue about life in general, let alone the deeper mysteries of life, let alone the esoteric understanding. And it kind of even makes me think of like all the people like online too, guys. Like all these people that push videos and call themselves teachers and this and that. And it's like, they don't even have an understanding. So does that mean they're wicked? So, I don't know, I'm getting tired. I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. I'm getting very tired, actually. It's late as hell. It's 2:30 here. But I want you to consider that and think about that, and we will do a part 4 for this. These 7 years, all of these signs that we've seen, what comes after the next one, guys? What happens next? We're watching this plain sight happen right in front of our face, right fucking now, We see the wicked. The wicked have no clue of what we're talking about. The wicked have no clue of what's going on. They are blind. They're oblivious. They are asleep. What will become of everything? And what will become of us is the question. So, I want to say thank you for all of you guys watching tonight. I hope you enjoyed part 3. I do want to ask you, I think I put it in the description. Check out part 1 and part 2. I will leave this playlist up for a day, maybe 2. But this video up for a day, maybe 2. And this will be a patron-only playlist after that. So, along with the Forbidden Occult and all those other ones. So, make sure to watch it while you can. And then comment, answer the questions I asked earlier, and let me know what you think, and I want to hear your opinions. I love to hear what you think. I really would, It excites me to hear your thoughts and views on this. And, the more comments we get, the better it is. It helps with the algorithms as well, so we get pushed more. Make sure everybody has hit the thumbs up and the like, even if you catch it on the flip side. It costs you nothing to do that. And share the link. Share it to your social medias. Please, don't care what your friends fucking think. Don't care about what nobody thinks. Do me a favor. Do your boy a favor. And if you enjoy the content, share it for me. Share it to groups you belong to, whatever. And remember, we're viewer powered. This is the start of a new month. We didn't hit the monthly goal last month. I've been struggling financially big time, so I want to ask everybody, to try to get this stuff done. Donate and support, guys, if you are able. Please consider donating, supporting to the channel. PayPal.me, the Best Damn Podcast. Cash App, Best Damn Podcast. Patreon.com, Best Damn Podcast Official. Or you can also go on Facebook Messenger, my personal page, Facebook.com, John Keane, Best Damn Podcast. Every little bit helps too. So every little bit helps, and I'm grateful for every little bit too. And if you join us over on Patreon, if you do like the 25 and up, You get free merch every 3 months. Like, I pay for the merch, you don't. Along with all of the uncensored content, that goes back years. Videos I've done that have been striped and all of that, along with all my new playlists on, the different platforms that, are unlisted. And some of the best work I've ever done, these playlists: The Mysteries of the Gods, The Forbidden Occult, the Planet X. I mean, just everything. It's really good stuff. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed, and you've got the bell clicked all on Best Damn Podcast Official and Best Damn Podcast 2 on YouTube. Follow me on Facebook, John Keane, Best Damn Podcast, and then Best Damn Podcast, the show page. Make sure you're liking and following on those. And Twitter, at The Real Best Damn. Please retweet this, heart this, all that, guys. It really does help me so much. Quote it, tell me what you think about things, all of that helps. And follow me, Instagram, Best Damn Podcast, and all the social medias and all of that. So all the links are in the description of the video. And I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you so much. I am on Rumble as well. Yes, I'm on Rumble. I'm on BitChute. I'm everywhere. So check me out on all of them. And like I said, check out the rest of this playlist. It really is a good one. Sorry I got tired there at the very end, but I don't want to fall asleep on you guys. So I'm really excited for this eclipse. I'm going to try to, do another video before it happens, and finish up the Planet X series before the eclipse. I'm really excited for that. It's going to be awesome. I tell you what, man, it feels good to get on here and to talk about the things I love and to just fellowship with y'all. It's like I have so much. Life is so stressful sometimes, like dealing with people, and I deal with so many shitty people. It seems like, so it's a relief to see people that are good and people that care and people that are aware and unique and different and beautiful. So I get excited to do that, and I feel your guys' energy in the chat. I really do. I feel your energy. It's like I feel the love, and I'm just grateful for it. Make sure to check out my daily tarot reads. Literally, dude, I'm killing it on Facebook on the tarot reads. Killing it. Seriously, we do really well. We get a lot of views on those. So check them out and watch them. Book a personal tarot reading, or if you donate and support and you want the links to the playlist and all that stuff, text 513-393-2396 or email therealbestdampodcast@gmail.com. It is April 3rd now, I think, so it's hey, you'll get, if you donate, you get access all month long. So this is the perfect time to do it. And once we reach that monthly goal, I'll do nothing but free content, and I'll unlock all the playlists and stuff for you guys, for everybody. So donate, support, subscribe, follow, share, like, comment. I love you guys so much. 7.5 earthquake in Taiwan. Yeah, I believe it. And watch the rest of the playlist. Alright guys, thank you so much. I love all of you, and I appreciate all of you. And like I said, big ups and big thanks to everybody for subscribing and everybody for taking the time to just watch, and all of you guys that support me, and everybody who's kind enough and generous enough to give. Thank you so much, and I'm appreciative of everything. Y'all have an awesome evening. I'll see you next time. Peace.